Hey, this is Witch's Hex. I'm here with Virtual Boy Wario Land. If you're curious as to how this capture setup works, make sure to check the video description. I put in all the relevant links. So anyway, this is Virtual Boy Wario Land, the second Wario Land game ever released, as you may expect for the Virtual Boy. With it, we have all of our familiar Wario Land mechanics and some pretty beautiful graphics, honestly. So, you know, Wario can run, he can jump, he can dash. Unlike in Mario, if Wario touches an enemy and it doesn't have a spike, that's not gonna be enough to kill him. Anyway, our fastest movement option for right now is the dash, and this horned helm we picked up gives us a bigger dash. And with that bigger dash, I can do that skip you just saw. So what you're supposed to do to get across that gap is jump on those little arrow tiles. They'll send you into the background, where you can go around. But with the dash, you can just catapult straight across and save a pretty substantial amount of time. We're actually going to want to avoid going into the background, which is this game's gimmick, because Virtual Boy and virtual reality and cool stuff, and it's 1995 and we don't know how to do that yet. But we're going to avoid it as much as possible. You don't actually have to do it too often, but there are some unavoidable cases. Like right here, these pipes are going to take us into the background. And the key is back here. No avoiding that. So the mechanics of the dash are pretty interesting, actually. So when you dash, you get your jump, or when you jump out of a dash, the jump's distance corresponds to the same amount every time. So what that means is that if you jump late into a dash, it'll be the same. And since the startup to a dash is a little slower, you want to jump towards the end of your dash as much as you can. So here's the underwater level. Swimming is actually pretty tough. There's a lot of places you can get hit. You really don't want to get hit in this level. You need this horned helm for something later on. So these fish are going to try to bite you. They actually only damage you if you touch them when their mouths are closed or open. So you can swim over them a little earlier than you'd expect. So something you'll notice in this room is that it's actually faster to swim if you're mashing the A button, which brings you upwards. So that's what I always do, if I can, is swim towards the ceiling. And you can see how fast I'm mashing by how many of the boxes I hit. If I'm mashing fast enough, I'll hit all the boxes. The only one that's actually important to hit is the third one. Is the first one, rather. So the reason that it's so important not to lose your horned helm here, other than you have to pick up a new one later, is that you can break that black block. You can't do that if you don't have the horned helm, so it loses maybe 10 seconds to have to go all the way around the other way. So yeah, there's another horned helm in that block right there, so it only loses 10 seconds, but hey, that's 10 seconds. So here we're brought to our first boss level, as you can see on the little map here. Every 4th level, as well as the 14th level, is a boss level. So before each boss, you have this little mini-boss. Now, it has 2 hits, and what you want to do for this boss is stand as close as possible to it before it jumps. That way, it has the least amount of time to recenter, since it always goes back to its home in the middle there. And if you land on that, you can actually jump straight from the cutscene onto the pad, into the boss, which saves a little bit of time, a few seconds, so you don't have to walk over there. Anyway, this boss throws a spike at you 3 times, then comes over and you get a chance to hit it. Now, what you're supposed to do for this boss fight is move left and right to dodge the spike. The timing for just jumping over the spike is actually a little tight. If you're playing casually, I don't recommend this method, but what this allows you to do is that you'll be in the perfect position to hit the boss if your timing's right when it jumps across. You do need to get your timing right on that as well. If you're too soon on that, you'll actually hit the spike before it gets launched across the screen, and you'll get hit. And if you don't carry the horned helm into the next level, it costs maybe 5 seconds or so. So you want to keep this horned helm. The timing here is always consistent, is the good news. So if you can learn to always jump over the spiky ball, you'll be good. So 1, 2, 3, dunk, and that's the boss fight. Now, every time you kill a boss, it rains coins from the sky. Now, picking up coins doesn't help or hurt us at all here, but Wario hates money. That's what everyone knows about Wario, so we want to dodge as many as possible. We don't want to jump to dodge them, because if the music ends and we're in the air, you lose a little bit of time because Wario has to land before he can give that thumbs up. So that's going to be the rules for our little mini games there, is dodge the coins. Dodge the coins, don't, dodge the coins, don't jump. It doesn't actually matter, but it's fun. So here we are in this forest level, so this screen, it doesn't matter if we lose the horned helm towards the end of this screen here, but we want to keep it because it lets us go across the screen fast. So we're going to jump, and in this box right here, there's an eagle hat, and this is our best friend of a power-up. So this hat lets you, it lets you do a couple different movement things. It'll let you flutter in the air, which is great for mobility, or for movement options, but it's also really slow. What you're going to see me doing most of the time with this hat is you can actually jump out of a dash with it in the air as if you were on the ground, and that gives you a lot of distance really fast. Now, if you lose that hat in this level, you have to actually go around and under after you pick up that key. You can't get back up to this ladder, and that takes about 2 minutes. So it's really important that you keep the hat once you're given it. Not to mention, you're going to want to bring the hat into other levels, because this hat lets you do a lot of things you wouldn't be able to do otherwise, as you're going to see time and time again throughout this run. So, like in this room, you want to stay out of the water as much as possible. There's currents pushing you in the wrong direction, towards spikes. You can swim fast enough to avoid the spikes, but hey, guess what's slow is swimming with a current against you. Anyway, now you have to hop up the waterfall, which is mashing dependent, so, yeah, this level hurts my fingers. But that's okay. We're gonna go over here for the key. Now, you can actually get this a little faster with Small Wario, believe it or not, because you have to break one fewer block getting in here, and it makes something easier on the way in. So we're gonna get the key. The current actually makes it pretty hard to open that block. A lot of the keys in this game are very well hidden, by the way. But yeah, gonna get the key, gonna leave. I did kill the Kappa on the top floor here. That was so that I wouldn't have to deal with it throwing a hat while I was climbing the waterfall. I say hat, it's a bowl, but, don't want to get hit here. While, you know, nothing really benefits from having the flying hat at this point in this level, I can do a skip in the next level. It's probably the second hardest skip in the game, but even failing it is faster than not trying it at all, and you need the cap to try it. These water puzzles are actually very easy to get swept in the wrong direction if you make a mistake. But yeah, no mistakes there. On to level 7, the desert. Now, this opening part of the desert is one of the more challenging screens in the run. So, these little spiky balls like to come at you. If you're not careful with your positioning, you will just land flat into one. So you want to make sure to get over them. But the real trick is here. You're going to want to use the flutter ability to get over this. And this will allow you to skip this little tornado segment. There's a backup hat in that question mark block if you fail it. And even failing it and landing in the sand is faster than trying to do it intended. But if you nail that trick, it saves maybe 5 seconds-ish. So it's a good trick to nail. Anyway, so here we're going to go get our next key. It's very well hidden. They did not make the keys easy to find in the second half of this game. So it's right there. And what's going to happen here is I have to pick up the fire power-up. Now, the fire power-up is terrible. You can't dash while holding the fire power-up. Now, if you have the eagle power-up, it'll actually combine, so you can still fly. That being said, it's not worth it because you don't have a dash. So I took an intentional hit of damage there. That way I can pick up this. If you have a fire hat, you can't actually pick up any dash hat materials. Whether it be the small one that brings you back to, like, regular Wario, or the horns that bring you straight to being Horn Helm Wario. So I got damaged on purpose there so that I could keep a dash for this bit. Now that sand you might think will kill you because of the little munchers underneath, but if you jump as soon as you hit the sand, you can actually jump right back out without taking a hit. And that's that level. That was actually really good for the desert. I do like how this game has 14 different levels, and all 14 of them have their own complete theme. But now we're onto a boss. So this thing learns a little more tricks every time you fight it, so this time it can shoot missiles at you. The missiles aren't too bad to dodge, although I think I do make a mistake here. You want to be ducking, yeah, there you go, because otherwise you'll see that that little rise, and that costs a few frames to watch the little thing rise up, and you know, save the frames. So here we're on to the second boss, and if you know how this boss works, this is the easiest of the 4 bosses in the game. So, what this boss does is it launches into the air, and then it makes a noise when it's picked where it's going to land, and it tries to land on you. Then, if it's facing you, it'll duck back into the sand, or duck back into the sand and immediately hop out. But if it's not facing you, it'll like be, "Where's Wario?" and then you get a chance to get it from behind. So that's the trick here. The only thing to really be careful of in this boss fight is to make sure that you're not standing in the corner, because if you're standing in the corner, you can't go behind the boss. Anyway, time for strategy number 2 in coin avoidance. So, you may think that falling through the sand will kill you, as is pretty common with this kind of hazard in these type of video games. But no, you can just stand down here. And coins are unlikely to hit you down here. They have to land straight down on you. If they try to bounce into you, they'll usually just bounce over the hole, unless they also have a very specific timing. So unfortunately, got 3 coins there. Again, doesn't really matter, but 3 isn't too bad. Problem is, with the rule of not being allowed to jump and the tiny platforms that are left after the boss fight in that stage, hiding in the sand is really the best option, even if you don't really have any control over it. Anyway, so here we have the speedrunner's least favorite level. This level has a few seconds of randomness in it. So these flies will pick up watermelons, and you need to grab a watermelon. If certain things happen, the watermelon can get knocked out of your hand. It's out of your control. You can also get stuck waiting there for a watermelon to spawn for a while, because it's not necessarily going to happen. By a while, I mean like 10 seconds, but hey. Anyway, you then need to, with timing, put the watermelon down on the thing and move it. There's 3 of those in this stage, but the 3rd one is just for the stage treasure. Every stage has a little treasure that we ignore. So, what happened there was that I was wedged between those 2 things. If you jump too high, you'll actually lose your watermelon because you'll hit the ceiling. So, not the best watermelon luck here. In fact, pretty much the worst watermelon luck here. You can't really get a lot worse than what happened in this one. But that's okay. This 3rd puzzle, again, we get to ignore. So just gonna dash across. I actually got good watermelon luck for that one. I just noticed watching this back. So that's a little bit of a waste, but level's done. Lost 11 seconds to double watermelon, but it is what it is. So here's our haunted ghost house level. And I'll explain why in a bit, but this is actually the most forgiving level in the run. First of all, if I lose my hat, which I actually think I do, there are like 3 or 4 backup hats. This is one of the only levels where losing your flight hat is not a big deal, because there's so many places to get a new one. I stood a little too far from the boss there to get it to spawn, but it also doesn't matter. So this mini-boss will throw like a couple of its kids at you, I guess. Then you have to jump on the kid, throw it into it, and that's it. There's actually a second version of this fight that you can do for the stage treasure. But that's not something we need. So anyway, here's the backup hat. I'm just gonna quickly nap that. Nice and easy. So we got a couple rooms to go through. All of them are in the background. Nothing too bad in these background tiles. Even if I were to lose the hat again, there is another hat, but I would have to... Unlike this first hat, I would lose time picking up a second hat. So anyway, here are these clocks. Now, if you'll notice, the middle clock is moving faster. And what you're supposed to realize somehow, this stage took me like an hour casually, is that if you show up to that clock with at any minute mark on the time remaining, so we were there at 19 minutes, it'll give you a key. And that's why it doesn't really matter, because so long as you get there through the 19-minute mark, you're good to go. So even though I did a couple things that lost a few seconds there, it didn't actually affect the run. Although that last room's movement is a little technical, and can affect the run. So here we have the second last normal level, and this is the hardest one to go fast in. It's not the hardest level in general, but it is the hardest one to speedrun. Mostly because you have these little frying pan things, and if you're dashing, it's really hard to precisely land on them. It's some of the most precise platforming in the... Well, no, it is the most precise platforming in the run. So, there I missed it slightly. It's actually okay. There is a backup hat here. There is a cool skip that you can do if you, that'll save about 45 seconds if you can keep your hat not just through this level, and you have another really challenging segment after these flippy paddles, but through the next boss fight as well, and the mini-boss preceding it. And what I'm going to say about that is that because I'm doing commentary on an old run, I know what's going to happen, and no, I made a mistake right there. This room is really easy to make a mistake. There are fans blowing you in every direction. It's okay, though. There's still a lot of, it's not getting that skip is not the biggest deal in the world. I don't really expect to get it in most runs, just because of how you have to do, while you don't have to do any one specific thing very well, you have to play flawlessly for a solid 2 or 3 minutes. So, these things will hit the ground and stun you. Now, what you want to do there is you want to spend as much time dashing in the air as possible, because for some reason you're immune to the stun if you're dashing and in the air. If you're dashing on the ground, it doesn't count. If you're in the air but not dashing, it doesn't count. So you want to be dashing in the air constantly. You don't want to be using our normal jump methods. So here we have the, this thing again. Now it shoots fire instead of missiles. I actually find the fire a little easier to dodge than the missiles, honestly. While the fire is longer and requires a more precise jump to get over, it doesn't require that much of a precise jump because, it's a Mario-esque game. It's Wario, but it's still like a Mario-esque game, and your jumps are really floaty, so you have a lot of time to kind of get over them. And they move a lot slower, so your timing is, a lot more forgiving. Anyway, this boss is coming up. There's a quick kill on this boss. It requires pretty much a frame-perfect jump. I don't think I actually got it in this run. It's super challenging. But that being said, getting the non-quick version is still pretty good. You actually have to align yourself so that the thing aligns. It's actually harder to do on the back screen. Because the back screen is actually smaller. It doesn't look small, or it's actually bigger, rather. It looks the same size, but because it's in the background, it's a little bigger. So you have to lower the boss a little more to the right to be able to jump on it from the spring. If you don't get it from the spring, it will jump off before it's finished firing. I mean, you can wait a little longer, and it'll do a longer attack where it shoots, like, directly at you. And that gives you enough time to jump across and jump on it, but that's slow. Anyway, didn't even talk about it, but 0 coins. You don't want to hang out in the background there, because if you're in the background when the thing ends, it'll force you to the foreground to give the thumbs up, so it loses time. We are on to the final level of the area. Or the final level of the game, rather, besides the final boss. So, this level is a big maze. There's a lot of places to go. It loves these spiky balls. There's lots of them everywhere. It actually, interestingly enough, probably visually resembles the first level more than any other. There's a fire hat in that block right there that's hidden, which, was really mean of them Because if you accidentally hit that block from the bottom, which you might, you'll pick up a fire hat, and you'll have to take a hit again, because you're going to want that horned helm. But it's especially bad if you make a certain mistake that can cause you to fall back down later on in the level. And you pick it up, because then you're stuck with it. Now, there's a little precise trick you can do here where you can break the thing on the pipe and get through it at the same time. I failed to do it the first time, but I did get it there. So I actually don't care about getting damaged here, because there's a flight hat in this box. Now, I don't actually need the flight hat for anything specific. There aren't any... I'm not going to do any skips with it at this point. Unfortunately, the skip I would have done with it earlier is faster to just do the intended way at this point, and that's the earliest you can get a flight hat in this level. There's only 2 in the entire level, and the other one also requires you to go all the way around. So, there's the key, and with a well-timed dash with the flight hat, I can actually just get straight back here. And I'm going to go through what I just did again. It's actually a lot the reason it's not as costly as you might think to miss the skip is because it's a lot faster to go through this area the second time. Because you've already cleared all the blocks from the dash, you've already cleared out all the pipes. You can really just walk through. It doesn't... Again, it doesn't take too long to recover from that, so, you know, that's a nice little thing about that skip. So, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to pick up this. There's no other dash hats that are going to be on my way between now and the end of the game. And I really would like an extra hit going into the final area, especially since they give you one for free right there. So, I grabbed that fire hat just to make sure that I can still get through the level, or the final boss okay, if I make a small mistake. But that brings us to the final boss area. But of course, before every boss, we have this mini-boss, and this is the one instance of the boss that's actually extremely challenging. So, it's going to fire this missile, but unlike the other missiles, it actually chases you, and it never stops. You can actually kill the missile if you hit it from the right direction, but it's really hard to actually do that. Dodging it is actually really intense. Unfortunately, because of the missile, you can't guarantee you can line up that thing like you can with the others. But, you know, you can still hit the thing. It only costs a couple... Not even a couple seconds. It only costs a couple fractions of a second, even. So here we have the final boss, and when I played this game casually, this boss took me 3 hours to beat. This is an extremely tough boss fight. Unless you know the quick kill. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't think I nailed the quick kill in this one. The quick kill requires some super precise timing. And what you have to do for it is go all the way to the left after getting a hit, walk across, and then jump from right there. But the exact point you have to jump from varies depending on your exact timing with moving relative to when the boss moves. So it's very tricky, and it's not always the same. So I'm always going to go for it here. I think, as a little bit of a spoiler, I get it twice in this run. I get the free hits twice. Anyway, hitting the boss as intended on this bit is actually really tough, too. Both times I have to do it, I get it first try, but... and with the amount of practice I've done on this boss, I've probably spent more time on this boss than the rest of the game. I can actually do it pretty consistently, but getting the timing is still really challenging, and you only get one attempt at it, really, because then you're going to bounce back and forth. Anyway, that's the boss fight. And that's Virtual Boy Wario Land. This game is a ton of fun. It's really good. You know, I don't think a lot of people have played it, unfortunately. Probably because it's on the Virtual Boy. But I think it's a really good game. It's a super fun speedrun. I'm enjoying it a lot. I've been learning from V-Slack's world record video. I've been watching that. That's how I learned to do most of this stuff. So as you can see, Wario's got his big empty bag of coins. And we're gonna go watch the closing cutscene. Because why not? We got a video here. Let's go see what's going on. Oh, Wario's ship, he crash landed here in an opening cutscene that I skipped. The beavers have taken his ship. Oof, tough luck, Wario. So looks like the beaver's talking to Wario. Looks like they made a little trade. Joke's on the beaver, though. Because that sack of coins, as we know, is empty. So, sucker. And Wario's gotta fly home. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. I'm gonna keep doing runs of this game, obviously. I like it a lot. Hope you enjoyed watching. I'm gonna leave you with the credits.